Esteemed students of now, I am Dr. Temilola Akpeno. I am the one that will be taking you in EDU711 Foundations of Education. In this first topic, we'll be discussing the concept of philosophy. There are three modes of philosophy. We are going to talk about philosophy of education. We are going to discuss equal opportunity in education and factors responsible for inequality in educational opportunity. Do join me. The learning outcomes for this topic is that at the end of this discussion, you should be able to define philosophy, explain the speculative, prescriptive, and analytic mode of philosophy, define philosophy of education, outline the scope of philosophy of education, explain the phrase equal opportunity in education, discuss factors responsible for inequality of educational opportunity. Philosophy. It is the totality of a person's fundamental beliefs and conviction. What you think, your opinion of an issue, of a matter, of a situation, a matured attitude to and right perspective of life, seeing things in the right perspective, a method of reflective thinking and reason inquiry. It's a situation that makes you to think deeply about a matter. Logical analysis of language and clarification of meanings of words. One is able to, distinguish between things. You are able to ascertain the truth. There are three modes of philosophy: the speculative, the prescriptive, and the analytic. The speculative is given to forming conclusions, opinions that are not based on facts. It's a way of thinking systematically, assumption, basing one's speech or thought on assumption, which may not really be true, may not be correct. Prescriptive is establishing or adhering to rules and regulation. It's establishing standards to assess value and judge conduct. This is more realistic, more reliable. It looks for facts. The analytic, on the other hand, is able or inclined to separate things into their constituent parts in order to study or examine them and draw conclusions or solve problems, especially concerning words and meanings. Philosophy of education is the ability to examine the goals, forms, and meaning of education, to look into the aims, the objective, to think about the way things are arranged, things are done in education, to see the main purpose of the goals of education. The relevance of philosophy of education: it encourages critical examination of issues and justification for actions. You look critically. Philosophy of education gives people the opportunity to critique situations on hand, especially concerning issues, and justify actions that are taken. It helps teachers with ideas required for educational reforms. It allows people to be able to make changes, necessary changes that is necessary, that is required in education. It also gives more weight to the validity or soundness of argument than to the authority. One is able to ascertain facts. It gives one where it gives weight to sound argument rather than instruction given, rather than laws passed. One is able to decipher what is the real truth. It helps one to keep open-mindedness. Once you know the truth, you don't need to hide anything. One is exposed to the truth, and so one is able to be open-minded. It makes us to be rational human beings. It makes us to be realistic. It makes us to act in the right perspective, because one has already gained the necessary knowledge. The rational activity of philosophy is that it can be seen as rational because it helps to scrutinize our beliefs and do a self-check on the correctness of our action. It is rational because it's, helps a person to look inward, to search oneself whether whatever he or she is holding on to is the right thing, whether the way you are seeing things is the right perspective. What is the quality of education? Equality of education is making everybody, making every citizen, each individual to be entitled to have equal proportion, to have the same proportion of what is available. Each individual should receive equal share of educational opportunity. One will not benefit more than the other. One ethnic group or one community will not benefit more than the other. To treat children of the same measure of ability the same way, regardless of their environmental factors, whether you are from GRA, whether you are from an estate, or you are from a ghetto. Once you are a citizen, you should be able to enjoy the same opportunity. Whether you are brilliant or you are an average student or you are an average child, you should be able to enjoy equal opportunity. Positive discrimination in favor of educational underprivileged children, with the sole aim of remediating the educational lag of disadvantaged children. There should not be any discrimination. If there is one, it should be in favor of any group of children that are underprivileged, and such discrimination should be based on the sole aim of working towards bridging the gap between the disadvantaged and the advantaged ones. So there should not be any difference, there should not be any bias, there should not be any segregation between each and every group. Factors responsible for inequality of educational opportunity. 1. Family background. The background that a child or a learner comes from often responsible for inequality. For instance, somebody from a poor background, somebody without any whose parents do not have any good educational background, or who is from a poor family, or who is from a rural area, may be at disadvantage. Financial status. If a family or parent of a learner is not able to provide for such a child, the child cannot buy books, the child cannot even eat or afford uniform, things like that can cause educational inequality. Academic status of parents. Like I said, if parents are not enlightened, if they are illiterate, it will definitely affect what the kind of education they will expose their child to. The age of a learner is also important. If the child is underage, the intelligence quotient may not go with the actual age, so it will affect what the child, the performance of the child in school. Also, the intellectual ability. If a child is intellectually low, the child may not be able to measure up to what average or gifted child will benefit. He may not be able to, go the same way with them. Health and environment also play a vital role. If a child is not healthy, the child will not be able to perform or promote as at when due. And the environment also, if a child comes from an environment that is he or she is not challenged mentally, it will affect the opportunity or his exposure to education. Efforts made to bridge the gap between the north and the south, because education got to the south first. The southerners are more exposed, more enlightened. So what are the efforts made by government? The first one is bursary award and scholarships. The learners in the north, dey benefit a lot. Even those in the south, some states are giving bursary, but government is focusing on in the north more. The federal government, they are focusing in the area of bursary and scholarship, so that the gap between the north and the south will be bridged. Also, the UBE initiative, the UBE, excuse me, the UBE has funded education to a large extent. They have provided many things schools need in order to bridge the gap. New constructions and innovations, more buildings are built in school, in terms of classroom, in terms of laboratories, and some other things. Flexible in entry requirements. If you notice, there is a flexibility in entry requirement. What is required in one state for entry into higher institution or into unity school is different from what is required from the other state, depending on the the level of the disadvantage. So we have higher percentage required in the south and lower percentage required in the north, because it is believed that the north is at disadvantage. The next slide talks about class activity. Take time to study it. Thank you.